Hey guys, thanks for joining. We are ready to put the crankshaft into the block. There's a couple things that we've done off camera to get it to this point. There's a few things though we need to do before we put it in the block, so stay tuned. Alright, so prior to removal of the crankshaft, we've marked each of the braces with a machinist punch with the number corresponding from front to back of the engine block. That's 1 through 7. And then we've gone through and the machinist has checked all of the and mic'd all of the rounds and made sure they're in spec, so they're good. We followed that up by a wet sanding of 1,000 grit, and you can go up to 1,500 grit, just to make sure there's no burrs or anything there, so we're good. Then we've cleaned it with brake clean. The next thing we've done is each of these braces we've gone through and flat filed just very softly all the edges just to make sure they are nice and flat. And so now what we need to do is go through and clean. Now in the previous videos you probably noticed that we went through and took off all of the sand casting or the casting flash from the block. The rear brace does have quite a bit of casting flash on it, so we went through and just very carefully ground down those parts. Careful not to nick the main seal housing, but that's always good to do, and it helps with oil flow. So now we're going to go ahead and clean the remaining tower braces and get them ready for installation. Take the main bearings and just give them a good wipe on the back of the bearing, not the front. You want to leave, there's a slight residue that is on there that you want to leave and not touch. We've gone through and we've chased all of the thread bolts for the oil pickup line and obviously for our crankshaft braces, and you can rent those from your AutoZone or O'Reilly. It's free. You just leave your credit card as a deposit and then you return it. AutoZone has 90 days for use, and then you get to keep the tool if you don't return it. So now we'll go through and we've wiped down all of where the bearing sit. All right, so we have our bearings all set, and we have half of them because we're going to install them into the block. And you want to make sure you have all the ones with the oiling hole on them. And when you insert them, you'll want to make sure you line them up with the side that has the oiling hole, that they line up. And the bearing that has the flange, that one goes in the middle. And you'll just want to make sure that they all seat properly. Now we head back to the workbench and we're going to install the bearings into the braces. And keep in mind our center brace with the pull thread gets the flanged bearing. Now I want to point this out. You'll notice that there are a larger bearing on the first brace, so you'll want to just make sure that all of your bearings are flush with the sides. So we're back at the workbench, and a couple things we need to put together is some assembly lube. We're using Lucas product. some Mega Black, some high temperature silicone gasket maker with the little nozzle, because we're going to make some thin beads, and then some petroleum jelly, and we'll want the main seal cap kit, and that comes with the main seal and as well 2 rubber side seals for the cap and the 2 metal cap pins. This is purchased from O'Reilly and it was about $15. So we'll take our main seal and the petroleum jelly, and you can use moly grease too, and we're gonna apply the petroleum jelly to the inside lip of the seal. Then we're going to push it on flange and just stopping it about an 1/8 inch shy of the end of the flywheel flange here. And of course, this is the least expensive way you can do this while the crankshaft is in the block. You would just need a special tool to hammer that on. Now we will move to the block and pre-lube the bearings. So we're going to put our RTV sealant in these corners of the rear main cap, and just a tiny bead is all we need. Now with the rear main cap, we'll want to take and make small beads of the RTV sealant in each of these corners. Now with the seals, we're going to take our side seals, and you'll notice they have lips, and those lips will have to go towards the block. So once they are in, and then with a little bit of assembly lube, lubricate the bearing. Then you're going to take your side seal pins, and you'll notice there's one end that has, don't think the camera can pick it up, but there's a beveled edge, and you're going to want that away from the seal, and you're going to push it in against the block with the screwdriver, and it should go all the way down. Now we're going to install the rest of the journals, and you'll want to make sure that the arrow is facing towards the front of the block. And in the advice of using machinist punch to punch each and every one in a dice counting pattern for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7 being the mains.
Me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world.
Now that we've got all of our braces aligned and our bolts are all threaded, we're going to tighten these down all snug first. Then we're going to go through with the torque wrench, starting from the center, moving out at 33 to 40 foot-pounds of torque on all of the bolts. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining, working on that crankshaft, getting it into the engine. We're going to get that finished. We're going to get it in the 240Z. Coming up next will be the piston balancing and the connecting rod balancing. So tune in next time. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for the likes.